We are here. What's up, family? This is your man, not your boy. Go Black to Africa. So I have a special guest right here that I'm very excited to have a conversation with. A brother that I met at a restaurant along the way. He stumbled across me and he started engaging conversation, right? And, got to know who he is by him just sharing some of the things. But interesting enough, this brother helped and assist to write the Constitution of South Africa. All right, let me go ahead and introduce you to our brother, and he can extend that introduction if I happen to miss out. But Mr. Leslie M. Dikeni is a research associate at the Department of International Politics, University of Pretoria. He was executive director, Africa Secretariat, UN Human Rights Commission. He has been a senior researcher at the Center for Policy Studies. His research interests include globalization and the social construction of knowledge. Is that correct, sir?
Correct.
Not only that, you are an author. How many books have you written?
I am an author of 5 books now. The next one is going to be on music, and it's called Music, Power, and Knowledge.
Music, Power, and Knowledge. Now, we have your books right here in front of you. We're going to introduce some of your books, I guess, that we have. The Poverty of Ideas.
Yes.
Poverty of Ideas, the Nation Formation and Social Cohesion.
Yes.
And we have the South African Development Perspective in Question. And one of your other books that you have here that you've written was
the latest, yes.
This is the latest.
Yes.
The
Habitat and Struggle.
Habitat and Struggle. Mr. Dikeni, you've got many of books that you have written. You've played a part in the whole constitution of this country, we know of South Africa. Please share with us how this came about. How were you selected as one of those? And maybe we can go a little further back before then. What about sharing a little bit about who you are?
Yes. I'm South African, born in a small town in Victoria West. My father was a member of the Pan-Africanist Congress. He was going to be hanged, and he survived. He was accused number 1. He lived in Portsmouth for many years. And during that time, to cut a long story short, because that's not our emphasis of discussion here, is that when he survived, I escaped. And I ended up joining the African National Congress, which is a ruling party currently in the country. And during that process, I was in and out of the country. And I ended up living in Norway, living in Holland, and then finally I did my doctorate in France, which is what he didn't say there, which I studied there, and I'm a doctoral candidate at École des Études Institut Sciences Sociales. And I studied also at the Sorbonne to study linguistics and language.
It's a lot of studying. So we're talking about your dad was basically sentenced to be hanged.
Yes.
And
death penalty that time.
Excuse me?
We had death penalty that time.
You had death penalty
in
at
the new
that time.
democratic dispensation, we don't have that anymore. We fought against it. We said no one ever, no state must have the ability to have power to take a life of a human being.
Okay. You said your dad, when he was sentenced to be hung, he was saved. How was he saved?
No, there are 2 people who helped him to be saved. One is Advocate Ian Fallam, who is now currently a judge in a retired judge It is the one who was overseeing the Marikana case in South Africa. The other one is Leslie Weinkerf. I was named after Leslie Weinkerf. They are two Jewish guys who came from England, who saw what happened in South Africa. That is late in the early 60s.
In the early 60s.
Yes. And then they saw the inhumanity of apartheid, colonialism, and racism. And then they said, what can we do? And they came to South Africa, and especially my dad's case, because my dad was a member of the PAC. The PAC was led at that time by Robert Sobukwe.
PEC.
PAC.
PAC.
Pan-Africanist Congress. There was the African National Congress, and there was also a Pan-Africanist Congress. A Pan-African Congress broke away from the African National Congress.
So the ANC and the PAC. So the
Yes.
PAC broke away from the ANC.
Yes.
Okay. Your dad was part of the PAC.
Yes.
Pan-African Congress.
But I was a member of the ANC.
When you got older.
Yes, when I got older.
Okay.
I joined then, at that time at the age of 17 years, the military wing of the African National Congress.
Okay. You got
That is
you
where
got
Mandela comes from. The same thing that Mandela did, we followed those footsteps, I followed those footsteps, inspired by that.
In what year are we talking?
We're talking 1985, 86.
Okay. Is when you joined the ANC.
Yes.
Now your dad was PAC. Why didn't you join the PAC?
Precisely because of, if I look at my dad's historical trajectory as a member of the PAC, understanding also where I come from, a rural town where racism, apartheid was blatant. It was worse than racism in Johannesburg, racism in Durban, racism in Cape Town. It was the most blatant form of racism that you could ever find.
And what town was this you're talking?
It's called Victoria West. It's in the Karoo, in the Northern Cape of South Africa.
Okay.
So, looking at that, I understood why my dad joined the PAC.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was no glimpse of the racism was so blatant. White people could not even speak to a black person.
Mm-hmm.
To metaphorically say it, it was like in America, right?
Mm-hmm.
That not even America was better. It was during the slavery days of America.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Victoria was like. That's how I can describe it. I hated it. And therefore I understood why my dad joined the Pan-Africanist Congress. However, the two guys who came to save him and who managed to help him to get out of that situation, to save him from being hanged, from going to the gallows, were two white Jewish guys.
Mm-hmm.
Then I asked myself a question, why would these guys do this? Which my dad also asked, which my mom also asked. That changed, even to my dad, I think, changed his consciousness.
Of white people.
Of white people. But he was already in the gallows.
So he was in the PAC, he got arrested, and you shared an interesting story. What your dad was accused of treason.
Yes.
And what was it that he was accused of?
He was accused because my dad used to be, in South Africa at that time, and especially in Victoria West, as I put it to you. You could only study it up to what we called at that time standard 6, right? And then my dad used to work in a hospital. There were two accusations against him: harboring of arms, because the PAC was a liberation movement, yeah, And the next one was, this is again, to show you how Victoria West was. You had water supplies. But even the water supplies were divided into two. We had the water supply for whites and the water supply for black people.
Yeah. He worked at a water plant.
He was working at the hospital.
Yeah,
but the hospital was linked to the water plant because the water had to be purified and so on and so on.
Purified and all that. Okay.
So the accusation was that he was going to put poison in the water supply dam for white people.
So he was put on treason because he was going to, they said he was going to poison the water that was supplying the white people.
Exactly.
Okay. This is how he got sentenced, and he was found guilty.
Yes, he was found guilty. Was going to be tried. No, I mean, that time you didn't, you see, like, that's why we're coming to the constitutional part of South Africa, okay? And the democratic process of its transition. And the gains we've made in the revolution so far is that time there was detention without trial.
There was what?
Detention without trial.
Oh, detention without trial, yes.
You are detained, no trial, no nothing.
Yes.
At that time there was nothing like that.
Okay.
You could be detained and you could be kept there for years.
Yes.
The laws allowed it that time. So he was under that process.
Okay.
He was going to be tried, and he was tried in court.
Yes.
But he was not found guilty yet.
Okay.
That's when that process ensued. It took a long time to get him out of the gallows.
Okay,
He
got
was
you.
not in the gallows yet, but he was facing the gallows.
Okay. Now, interesting enough, you made mention that how he got sentenced to go to prison, I guess, is they pressured and tortured your mother,
Oh, yes.
who was pregnant
me.
with you.
Yes.
Share a little bit of that.
Okay. To be able for them to get evidence on my dad, which is why I will never get married, have children. No. They took the week because my dad didn't fall apart because he was accused number one, but there were 21 other prisoners with him. So he had to stand for them. And he would never leave his comrades, his friends. And others were not even involved in the PAC. They were just picked up as associates. Anyone who was associated. So that's how then they took my mother. And my mother was pregnant with me, and I was trying to get out of there.
Trying to get out of there, yeah.
Just say, hey, get me out of here.
Yeah.
And so they would go to this house in Victoria West. They would take my mother, they would take a sponge, a mattress sponge, fill it with water, put it on top of her.
They would take a sponge, fill it with water, and put it on top of her, torturing her.
Torture her.
Let it drip down.
Say, yes.
That
To
back
say-
then.
To say, and the accusations of the dam were not true. It was a trumped up case. But they knew that he was a member of the PAC, so they had to find something to make him guilty.
Yes.
So my mother was, what do they call it in the legal words now? Someone who has to be, it was my dad's alibi.
Yes.
She took her to say, testify, he did these things. Right? So they tortured her badly. And they tortured my dad badly. May their soul rest in peace because they both passed away. I don't have mother and father. But what I do know is that deep down, my father, through those tortures, suffered a great deal. And those wounds kept on going on him.
Yeah. So, your dad had to serve how many years in prison?
I'd say about 4 or 5 years.
And your mother, who was tortured.
But before I go there,
Yeah, go ahead.
I've got to mention the fact that these two Jewish people, one is very prominent, and I've got to thank them for that.
Okay.
Advocate Falam, Ian Falam, who Mandela appointed to do the Marikana case.
To do the what?
The Marikana case. The Marikana case is the case of where the miners who died in Marikana, in some province in South Africa. He was overlooking that case.
Okay.
Then the next one is Leslie Weinkauf, whom I'm named after.
Right.
Because my dad didn't believe that white people would do this. And also, the resources were not there, money. So that's what my mom asked. How are we gonna pay you back if you ever have to do this job? They said, no. We do it for the sake of humanity. We abhor apartheid. That's why we are here. Then what in exchange do you want from us? Said, that boy in that stomach of yours, when he comes out, name him Leslie. So that's why I'm Leslie.
So two Jewish guys coming from Europe. Where were they coming from?
England.
They came from England, heard about your dad's case, wanted to come and I guess give legal assistance to try to set your dad free. In that, they did a pro bono, basically not charging your mom and your dad to do this because they were against apartheid. The return of the doing the pro bono, free of charge, if you will, of legal counsel, they wanted your mother to name you after Leslie. What's his last name? Surname? What's his
Leslie Weinkauf.
Wigginnsrealty.
Yes.
And your mother named you after him.
Yes.
This changed your dad's whole dynamics of white people because he could not understand how would two white guys coming from Europe or England would do a free legal counsel to get him legal counsel to get set free from this whole thing. Interesting.
And very interesting, narratively speaking, is that they didn't stay in Cape Town. They went to that little town of mine called Victoria West, which really, literally, you had, it was divided by a river. Whites, blacks, so-called colored people on the other side. Blacks were in the worst, they were the worst oppressed. Colored people, a little bit of preferential treatment. And whites. When we used to go to town, you'd see their kids swimming, diving in swimming pools. We never had swimming pools. Our school, you could only study till up to standard 6 in Victoria West.
You what?
Could study only till up to standard 6, which is, I don't know now in the grades that they are talking about now, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just like
You can only
primary
study,
school.
so you can only study up to primary school. You couldn't go no further.
There was no school for that. You have to go out of whoever could make it with the little bit of resources that they had to travel, go to Johannesburg, go to Eastern Cape, go. That was what Victoria was.
Okay.
There's my brother, a poet, who correctly points out and says, Victoria West, the dog nest. It was a dog nest.
So, okay, so we're going to transition now because we just laid out how you were named. Your mom and dad, your dad's struggle of he was a Pan-African or part of the PAC, a Pan-African council, was it? Congress. He was standing for the rights of the Africans.
Yes.
And basically he was falsely accused of committing treason, of trying to poison the white people's water because he worked in a hospital which was connected to a water plant. He was actually served some 4 to 5 years in prison, but the 2 Jewish councils who came from England, came to help and assist. You became of age.
Let's just summarize quickly to help you and to help the listeners.
Sure.
Very important is that the difference between the Pan-Africanist Congress and the African National Congress.
I was going to get to that. Yes. What is the difference between a Pan-African Congress and the African National Congress? Yes. What's
Very
the difference?
Because as we move forward.
That is very important. Yes.
The African Congress believes, said that South Africa belongs to all those who live in it. It adopted the Freedom Charter.
They adopted a Freedom Charter.
Yes.
When did they adopt this Freedom Charter?
That was in 1956.
56.
Yeah,
Was
in
this
Cape Town,
established?
Soweto.
This is where?
Cape Town in Soweto. But the Freedom Charter says South Africa belongs to all those who live in it.
Who established the ANC? Where was the ANC started? Established?
1912.
Who?
1912.
In 1912.
Yes.
By Europeans?
No, by Africans.
By the Africans. They created this in
Africans.
1912.
Yes, it was Albert Lutuli, those guys during that time. Yeah.
Right.
They started African National Congress. They said South Africa belongs to all. But before even the Freedom Charter, the ANC had already declared that South Africa belonged. But this was a hypothetical vision of the ANC. It then went out to say that we need to have a Congress of the people, we need to have a Congress, we need to have an assembly, we need to go and canvass this view of ours to people. And then they invited a whole range of people, intellectuals, peasants, women from the rural areas, city dwellers, and so on and so forth, to this place called Cape Town. Mm-hmm. And there they said, what do we want our country? What is the vision for our country?
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was the Freedom Charter. It then declared South Africa belongs to all those who live in it, black and white. So, now let's focus on the point. I'm sure you want more questions, because the question is, what is the difference between the PAC and the African National Congress?
Yes.
The PAC then, at that time, believed, Robert Sobukwe, that no, we cannot go on like this.
What year was this established, the PAC?
I would have to think about that, but it was in the 60s.
In the 60s?
The most important part of it is the Shopville Massacre.
The what?
Shopville Massacre. It was a massacre in Shopville here,
right,
in Gauteng, that time called the Transvaal.
What
right?
year?
That was in the 60s.
Okay.
I cannot remember the year.
That's okay.
At the moment, but it was in the 60s. That's when that massacre took place. Then the PAC said, no, Africa for Africans.
Sounds like a Marcus Garvey quote. Africa for the Africans.
Yes, Africa for Africans.
But the ANC was saying South Africa is for everybody.
Yes.
That's
the difference.
Okay, go
That's
ahead.
where my dad. That's why I'm saying to you, if you connect, in the historical narrative, a biography of my dad, why he joined the PAC, it was natural. Because Sobukwe also used to live in Graafreinet. Victoria West, a small town I come from, is close to Graafreinet.
Okay.
So that's where Sobukwe came in. Recruited him, say go and build the PAC in Victoria West.
Who came to your dad?
Sobukwe. Robert Sobukwe. Robert Sobukwe was the leader of the Pan-Africanist Congress.
Okay.
He lived in Robben Island.
Okay.
For many, many years.
Okay.
Severely tortured. One of the
Robben Island's where the prison is, where Mandela went to prison.
Yes.
And when Robben Island outside of Cape Town. Okay.
Yes. So that's where. But one of the greatest brilliant minds, which I wrote about in the book here, he is one of those great intellectuals who suffered badly at the same place where Mandela was, and unfortunately he died.
Robert, what's his name?
Sobukwe.
Sobukwe.
Yeah.
Robert Sobukwe. Look that name up. Okay. So that's the difference between the ANC. ANC was about South Africa's for everybody. PAC was about Africans for Africa. Africa for the Africans.
Yes.
Okay.
So it was ideological. I mean, really, it was ideas, really.
It's always
I think, what is
ideas.
the vision for South Africa? What do we want? And also, not only the vision for South Africa, but what is the vehicle to liberate Africans?
Okay. Why do you think that Africans of the ANC, who was still suppressed under apartheid, felt as though that South Africa is for everybody? So that was inclusive with all those who are here, including Europeans. Why was their mindset on, let's make this available to everybody?
Look, you see, if you permit me, and if you give me time, I'll explain it.
Okay.
Do we have time?
We have plenty of time. We're live. We can go all day.
In South Africa, you see, what we always say is that we call Africa is colonized.
Yes.
All of Africa was colonized.
Yes, it was.
We were the last batch to be freed from colonization.
Who?
South Africa.
Was the last
Was
batch.
the last one.
Yes.
Yeah, the last. Oh yeah, we're free.
Yeah.
So now, but most African countries were colonized by one European colonialist. But we were not. We were colonized by the Dutch and the English. Right? Hence then, after colonization, they themselves fought amongst themselves.
Yeah. They had wars.
After they finished us, then they fought amongst themselves for who must take over the country.
And what year was this war?
That's Anglo-Boer War.
The Boer
It's
War.
called the Anglo-Boer War.
Okay.
They fought.
What year?
And the English took Natal, what we call now KwaZulu-Natal. They took over there and they fought. Shaka Zulu fought bitterly. And they beat them. And then they were also beaten.
Okay.
So we were
because-
colonized. But the point I'll come back to it. That was in
Sure.
the 1950. Okay, I do not want to use specific dates now.
You don't have to be specific. Was it in the 1800s, 1900s, the 20s, the 30s? It was in the 1900s.
Yeah, 1900s, yes.
Yes.
So therefore then, when we look at our situation in South Africa, we analyzed it and we said that South Africa, we have a different form of a colonial rule.
A different.
We call it colonial of a special type. Because we are colonized by the English and
The Dutch.
So it's a colonial of a special type. Our form of colonialism is not one. Because both these two races also fought among themselves for the cake. Yeah? For the country. Right? And then they came and they finally, okay, we are all white. Let's just deal with these motherfuckers. Sorry.
So this fighting, they just decided, let's just become one and deal with the Africans.
That's your life. Come on, you're afraid, you know?
Come on, speak up. They got to hear you.
We're all white. Come on. Come on.
Yeah.
Hey, brother, man. Hey, we're brothers, man. Our enemies that way. Let's use the cheap labor, right? Let's push them. They created then the homeland system.
The homelands, what?
The homelands. They had what we call Transkei, Ciskei, Venda, and so on and so on. To keep Africans there. But to also divide Africans.
Yeah.
Because then the Xhosas must be in the Eastern Cape, and then the Zulus must be in KwaZulu-Natal, and then the Vendas must be someplace in Venda there, and so on and so on. Divide and rule. Divide them, we rule them. And we take the land from them. And we push them out in the outskirts. Right? The book I'm writing about is called Skubuza. It's called in the Kruger National Park. You see, lots of people go to this place called the Kruger National Park to go enjoy themselves. And so it is. It's a national park. It's a reserve. It's a nature reserve. But no one knows the sufferings of people who come from there. The first camp in the Kruger National Park is called Skukuza, meaning sweep them out.
Sweep them out.
Because African people used to reside in the park. Paul Kruger, an apartheid racist colonialist. That's why it's named Kruger National Park. It's named after him still.
You are right. That park is named after him.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So, the stories, the theoretical framework of how we need to analyze that history is all documented in the book. Most importantly is that Paul Kruger decided with Stephen Hamilton, a guy called Stephen Hamilton, to remove all black people out of there and then to create this reserve.
They moved all the Africans out of what we know as the Kruger National Park.
Yes, in Mpumalanga. It's in Mpumalanga, in the province of Mpumalanga in South Africa, where we all go. I also enjoyed it. I was there. I enjoyed it. It's a lovely place. It's nice to see nature and so on. But the stories of how that became a nature reserve, painful.
And he wrote a book. This is your book you wrote about that.
Yes.
Awesome. That is something I did not know. Okay, so you've shared with us about this whole ANC and PAC, the difference between those two.
Yeah.
And you decided to join the PAC.
No,
the ANC. Your dad was PAC. You decided to join the ANC.
Yeah.
Now, why did you decide to join the ANC where it says South Africa is for everybody, where your dad was a PAC, Pan-African, what's the word? Pan-African Congress that said Africa's for the Africans. Why did you join the ANC?
There are a number of reasons.
A number of reasons. Okay, we're listening.
One, those who saved my dad were Jews. They were white. We can go up. I mean, of course, now there's the conflict between Palestine and...
Come on, speak up.
The conflict between Palestine
and Israel.
I mean, absolutely, I'm with the Palestinians very clearly. Right? But even that, I think there could be something that could change that situation.
You know what's so interesting? Go ahead.
What informed me was that was human. These two guys coming from England, come to South Africa, go to live where I used to live, this dog nest I was talking about, Victoria West. And they stayed, my mom and them, and, to understand, because they had to work on the case. They said, no, my mom said, no, we cannot do this. Where are you going to sleep here? And they stayed there, and they served, eat what was there, and provided food for my family. So that said to me, no, something in humanity. All human beings are humans. We are all human. We are all human. And also, that those who hurt you so much, you don't change them by revenge. You change them by ideas. You show them that you're human. Otherwise, where would we be today in South Africa? Bloodbath. Endless. We don't need that. But beyond that, the basic tenets is that no one must have power over any other human being in the world. And I saw it as I lived in Europe and many other countries and meeting other people. And of course in Europe there's a lot of racism also. You cannot deny it. But that conviction carried on with me. It was also, I was young, inspired by Mandela's vision. And in the talk when he said, because as I grew up, I then learned what Mandela was doing. Right?
Mandela was part of the ANC.
Yes.
And he believed that South Africa was for everybody.
He said it in the talk. He said it in the talk.
He said it
prepared
what?
to die.
He said it in what?
In the talk, when he was in court. He said it in court, remember?
He said it in court.
His famous statement in court.
Yes.
You know, but if need be, I'm prepared to die.
Why did he make that statement, I'm prepared to die? Because he made the statement that Africa's for everybody. Was he referring to the Africans coming after him? He's prepared to die by making that statement?
No. It was a very, very, it was the greatest foresight of thinking. You know, you must have a foresight in life.
Yeah.
Huh? Mm-hmm. That this South Africa, but informed by the Freedom Charter, by the way. Informed by what? The Freedom Charter, which says South Africa belongs to all those who live in it, black and white. But where, you know, by the way, on this Freedom Charter story, if you go to America, can the Americans ever say America belongs to all those who live in it? No, they never say that. Huh?
They don't say
that.
No,
they don't say that. If you go to Europe, the Europeans never say, they never, ever say Paris, France belongs to all those who live in it. Or Germany's. Even the Germans don't say that. The Israelis never say that. They don't even want to say that. They still want a two-state. I mean, we are the only unique country in the world. Even in Africa, you don't find that statement in the constitutions of Africa. We are the only country that is unique. Go to Japan, they will never even say that the Japanese. They still have their own scores to settle with the English. Right?
I have found in my travels in Africa that every African that I come across accepts other nationality, races of people to come in and enjoy the freedoms that they have. I have yet to find one African country that rejects others coming in. It's just who we are as a people.
Yes, correct. I'm not
You're saying yeah, you're right.
But I'm saying we're unique.
Oh yeah, we definitely.
So we had a foresight.
Yes.
We said South Africa belongs to all those who live in it.
Yes.
Go to even in Asia, they don't have. Don't. It's not.
No, I'm not gonna say. No, I'm not gonna say.
It's about the uniqueness and the foresight that we have. Even if you go to Asia, they won't say Taiwan belongs to all Taiwanese.
No.
To all those who live in Taiwan.
Right.
It's for Taiwanese.
Yeah.
South Africa is unique. We understood
that
historical colonial process that I spoke to you about earlier on, that it's a colonialism of a special type. Therefore, then, we have to accommodate, right? Everyone who lives, every human being who lives here, right? That is a very important way of understanding humanity. I lived in Paris for many years, I lived in Holland for many years, I lived in Norway, but there's no other country. Sorry that we are dealing with history, and I hope that the current regime now would just focus on that. But it has to be known in the world that we are very unique, and I'm proud of that. I fought that struggle, and I'm happy. My father did change his ideas as well, and began to understand. And I'm very grateful that African National Congress, the party that Mandela believes in, won and made this country to be what we want it to be. That's the vision I have, and that's the vision I'll carry ever in my life.
And I understand and I respect that. But let me ask you this question right here. Was the belief that the ANC was saying this all the way back in the 1920s that Africa is for everybody is because they knew that they were in a dead situation. They knew they were not going to be able to control those who were in control. So why not try to embrace the idea that South Africa is for everybody?
I think there's partly what you're saying, but there's only just a basic fundamental thing that you just say, what is humanity? Human beings are human beings.
But when you are fighting against
Human beings are human beings. In America, what were slaves, African slaves?
Yeah.
That's why I agree with you that we are different from these other people because we embrace humanity. Right?
Africans embrace humanity.
Yes.
Africans.
And they don't.
True.
And they don't. And they're in denial about it. That's why I'm saying we are unique. I ask you in the Constitution of America, do they say America belongs to all those who live? They never dare say it.
The ANC and the PAC sounds very familiar to Martin Luther King's side of the house and Malcolm X's side of the house. Martin Luther King was wanting to integrate into this societal, economical America, blacks and whites together, America's for everybody. But Malcolm X was about, initially his thought was about, by any means necessary, these blue-eyed white devils, are the evil thing that has ever happened. But his ideal changed when he went to Mecca, like yourself, who saw that 2 Jews came down to save your father, and his ideal changed. Do you see a correlation, this comparison in the two?
You got me there. But let me, no. I like your American story. Okay. Like the King, welcome back. You see, in the revolutions and struggles, you may have 2 different contending ideas.
Yes.
But you've got one objective. I don't think that in America, Malcolm X would have wanted white people to be slaughtered and killed the way they did to the slaves in America. I don't think so. That's what Malcolm X, when I read every work of his.
Please speak up just
I
a little.
read Angela Davis' works on this and so on and so on. I believe in the visions of Angela Davis, the great American feminist, communist.
Speak up a little, Dikeni.
Okay. Yeah, you see, so that's
He's getting serious, his voice goes low, you know what I'm saying?
So, if you read Angela Davis' works, they didn't despise white people, but they were fighting against a power that was there. It's an establishment. I mean, even the PAC, I don't think they would have wanted to say, let's drive all these whites into the sea.
Yeah.
No. It was their objective to say, the only way we can liberate ourselves is by us liberating ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But remember, in the struggle of the 60s, 80s, and 1912 and so on, there were a lot of white people in South Africa, communists and so on and so on, who joined the revolution. Mm-hmm. There's Joe Slovo. We can mention many white people, right? Who were with us in our struggle, agreeing with us, and agreeing with that vision of a non-racial, democratic, non-sexist South Africa. Mm-hmm. So so it takes time sometimes, and it's painful sometimes to be able to get your ideas through to the other.
Yes.
You have to do it through persuasion, but in a revolutionary movement, you have to act.
Yes.
You need a force that can fight that. We didn't know that we were going to be negotiating and sitting sitting with the enemy, the other side. No, we didn't know that. Mm-hmm. We thought, and I know as a youngster at that time, we were going to take over South Africa like the Cubans took over Batista in Cuba. We're going to come there. No, we didn't know And thanks God, we didn't do it that way.
Why?
Is it worth any death of any human being? It's not worth it. Either through famine or any other means or through a war. Death is just wrong. Pain. Wars are painful. They are not easy. And we know it in Angola, we know it in Mozambique. We've seen what happened in the region. We know what our own regime did to our neighboring countries. Lusaka, in Zambia, how they slaughtered the Zambians. Right? In Angola, how they slaughtered, the Battle of Puto Valley in Angola. That's how we won our freedom. You see. But any war is just wrong. If we can avoid it at all costs, we should. And we knew that. But in South Africa, we were forced to do it. I was forced to be a member of Umkhonto weSizwe. And which I was proud of. I joined Umkhonto weSizwe, the military wing of the African National Congress.
You said it too fast. I didn't hear you. You joined
Umkhonto weSizwe, the military wing of the African National Congress. I joined it. Mm-hmm. I joined it because I wanted to get rid of this monster of apartheid. Because it was destroying our lives. It was killing my dad. My grandmother was killed by the same Boers.
Boers are the Dutch people.
Yeah, the regime.
The regime. Yeah.
You see, those kind of things. So war is not. I mean, it's counterproductive. Scientifically speaking, really, what is a war? I mean, a war. I mean, we know what happened in Japan, Hiroshima, We know what happened in Vietnam. Wars are just bad.
Well, I see differently to an extent. Wars definitely are bad. But then what is bad if it's able to bring freedoms for those to come? Because, one of the tough wars that America typically face is those who are not afraid to die. When they went up against the North Vietnamese, they got their asses kicked. America did. America left with their tails. They couldn't beat these people who didn't care. We'd rather die than for you to come in and support or back up a regime that's going to take our freedom. One of the hardest things for America they would have never beat Japan if they didn't have the weapon of the nuclear weapon. Japan's mindset was, we have suicidal people who are willing to die for this cause of what you all are about. And it was hard to beat Japan until they dropped the nuclear bomb. I'm saying, yes, wars are terrible, and you should stay away from wars as far as you can. But sometimes the loss of life for the freedom of a people sometimes can turn around and be a good thing. Because there's been wars that have...
Look, I'm not a pacifist.
Huh?
I'm a revolutionary. I'm not a pacifist.
Okay.
What?
You're a revolutionist.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not a pacifist. I believe in the war if it's necessary.
There's a time to live, there's a time to die.
Necessary.
There's a time for peace, there's a time for war. This is even scripturally that has been put in place in this universe, even in nature. It sets itself in peace, but yet at times it goes in war to keep everything in balance, because you have the acids and you have the neutral side, you have the base side of life that wars within itself too. And even man will war against itself. Those with control will try to dominate and control all, but because there are that spirit that will rise and fight for what's right, there are those who are willing to die for it, which has brought upon a peace for many people who have fought for freedoms, which we should give respect to those who fight for what's right. Not be submissive and cower down and remain complacent and be silent when those who have the power want to continue to dominate and take.
Frameworks of power. It's known in history that when you dominate the other will react.
The other will act, yeah.
Yes.
They will act.
Yeah. Not just because they want to react, but because domination causes pain.
Yeah.
Domination itself is war.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So when you oppress me, I will react. I'm not saying don't react. I'm saying fight as much as you can
Yes.
for that domination not to exist anymore
Yes.
over you.
Okay.
No one must have power over the body of any life. Not only in colonial or historical wars, both at the macro, at the micro level. Right? Macro meaning that those historical wars and those big things, Second World War, I mean, come on, look at how the Europeans fought the Germans. They had to fight that war because the Germans were oppressive. They wanted to become an empire.
But hold up now, because we keep talking about how the Germans were suppressive. Why did Hitler turn out the way he turned out to go ahead and do what he did to the Jews?
That's agree was a fascist. No, it's exactly. I mean, why do you think the whites, South Africans?
Well, let's say, because we talk about Hitler. I was listening to me answer this.
Yeah, but
right
these things are you know you have to connect these things.
Hitler was saying that the Jews were dominating everything. They were the bankers, they were the business people, they were keeping the Germans out. He got tired of seeing this control overtaking the people, where that spewed in anger in him, where he rose up. He wanted to go ahead and annihilate and destroy all of them because of the hate that was in his heart. So what I'm saying is that people always talk about Hitler, how bad he was, but they don't want to talk about how the Jews were those who were dominating the Germans at the time of Hitler coming up. So we're talking about the same thing. One who was in control, Hitler didn't, and the people didn't like it. He rose in control and he wanted to destroy them. So this was back and forth. Look what we see today.
Don't forget. There's something else that people like to talk about. Okay, I feel this and that and that. You know, like in Europe, when I lived there, I felt very free. Right?
You felt free,
Because
okay?
I could see the constitution. Okay, this is what the country represents. This is what he said.
Can't hear you.
So any bloody European guy would come to me in a rescue ride and act like that. I'll hit him back, if need be. Okay.
If he
yeah,
won.
because I know the law is not against me. It's with me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? As long as at least you don't have to deal with this thing structurally, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, when it comes to the German, I mean, they declared anti-Semitism. You know, they get Jews as these bad people. And wow. They did. They
Yeah.
wrote it. It was there. It was in the constitution, and they established a program to exterminate them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? The feelings of a person and the individual is another story. Okay.
Yeah.
But the fact that the state,
Yeah.
Hitler,
Yeah.
said
Yeah.
that's.
But nobody talks
It's
about
the same-
why
it's
did
the same-
he get to that point.
It's
Nobody
the
wants to
same-
talk
it's
about
the same
that.
in South Africa.
Yeah.
They established apartheid.
Yeah.
They colonized us.
Yeah.
They took over the land. They took over everything.
Mm-hmm.
They oppressed my dad. They made me go and live in that bloody Victoria West. Yeah, they said it's there. They put it in the constitution. It's a law.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You cannot go to school. You cannot do this. You cannot do that. You must be out of town this time. You must, and you belong only to this part of, right? Those laws similar to what they did to the Jews.
But I understand that, but I just want us to understand that what got Hitler to that point?
What power did the Jews have to be able to create what Hitler has created?
The power that they had is from what he's saying. I'm not defending the fact that he went and
He was a
killed
fascist.
millions.
Just say it. He was a fascist first. Let's move to that prejudice.
Well,
he was a fascist. But he was a demagogue.
Well, typically when you find a beast, typically when you find somebody who has been enraged and who is crazy and all that right there, let's go back to what got him there. He was sharing or showing, even in history, that the Jews, they had the money, the pay, the business, the control over a lot of things in society that the people of Germans that were being suppressed by the Jews, which stemmed this anger that was in him to cause such a thing. So people don't want to address that. What made Hitler what he is? Let's go back to it. It's just no different than what caused South Africans to have a war against those who came in and wanted to dominate. Why were they fighting? Or did we want to jump that and say, well, you know what? The Europeans came to fight against the Africans because the Africans wanted to fight against. No, why were the Africans fighting against the Europeans? Because the Europeans want to have control.
You see, any form of domination
Yes, any form.
will create a reaction.
There you go.
It's domination,
Yeah.
power. Let's forget, right? So let's take these things from a very pragmatic, not pragmatic, but from a very specific, right, way. Any form, even you and me, if you come here and you want to come and dominate me in my house, you'll create a reaction. I will beat you, kick you out of my house. And if I go to your house, it's the same thing. No one must dominate anyone, any form of power.
Yeah, any form of
over
power.
another person. It's just wrong. Any form of power. You know? That's why we would talk about. I mean, even in the so-called gay, lesbian people, when they are suppressed, they will react, and they should. Right? Even you know. And then for the sake of South Africa, we need to think and rethink properly now how we change South Africa, you see. And we have, I'm very proud of my country. I'm very proud of what we created in the Constitution. I'm very proud of the fact that we negotiated. We saved lives.
Which
We
brings
saved
us.
lives. So many lives were lost, it had to stop.
Yeah. Which brings us to where now you were one of the members and responsible for writing the Constitution of South Africa.
Yeah.
You say yeah?
I'm about to say we have to take a break. I need to smoke, but anyway. Yeah. Yes. I was at CODESA during the first process of the negotiations. We negotiated. You would remember or would recall that the negotiations almost fell apart.
What year are we talking?
That was 1990, in the 90s.
Okay.
Just after the first of all, there was the release of Nelson Mandela.
There was release of Mandela.
Yes, and then after the process of the release of Nelson Mandela, there was then the talks in Cape Town took place between the regime and the leaders of the African National Congress. Things were not, it was the beginning of the talks. And then after the talks then, it was resolved that we now can negotiate, we can talk about the constitutionality of South Africa. So then there was CODESA, what we call the Conference for the Democratic Future of South Africa.
Can you say that one more time?
Conference for the Democratic Future of South Africa.
Okay.
CODESA. So that process took place. So there was that initiative where, therefore, then the parties had to negotiate as to what form of a constitution we want and so on, and agree for a process of elections and so on and so on. So that was the process. So I was part of that process. I was one of the delegates in the conference there, as you can see there. Yeah, that was it. Delicate process, difficult process. I think the leader, one of the leaders of the ANC, was shot to death at that time. And it derailed the process. And that's where Mandela, you could see, really a humanist with a vision, no vengeance. Because the country was revolting. Mandela stood up and said, no, we'll continue, despite. Because Chris Hani was a very charismatic leader.
Who was?
Chris Hani.
He was the leader.
He was also a leader of the ANC, but he was also a member of the Communist Party of South Africa. But he was a prominent leader, very charismatic. People loved him, loved him a lot. And he was shot dead during that process.
They find out who shot and killed him?
Yeah, we know, yes. It was a Polish guy who's now in jail in South Africa, who's begging to get out. God forbid he must never get out. Really, I'm sorry, I'm forgiving, but you know. And by the way, we don't have death penalty here. Not like in America.
Death penalty.
You still,
Yeah.
We don't have that. We in that constitution we negotiated for, we said no one. The state must never ever have power to take lives
Wow.
of others. You see, that's how you value human beings.
So
Humanity. In your country, you still have. Am I right? You're American, is it?
no, I'm not American.
Oh,
Not
what
my
are you?
country.
Sorry, but your
No,
language,
no,
what are you?
no, my language may be, but I'm African. I'm African. And people, there's some people who get upset at me when I say that. Like
your accent, I mean. You know,
My
you train
accent
me,
is,
yeah.
yes.
You must change your accent. I'm going to train you in Xhosa now. You know, you speak.
train me in closer. I know how to say closer. Train me. But you was a member of what party that constructed this constitution?
Yeah, Daisy was an issue.
You was a member of the ANC that played a part in this writing the Constitution.
Yeah.
Why were you selected? Where were you at, and what were you doing in order to? Because you was a member of it. Were you one of the head leaders in the ANC, or
No,
held a seat?
No, I mean, it was just the ANC at that time was working democratically, and certain people would be appointed who have certain expertise for negotiating and for engaging. You know, if you were good at this, then you'd be deployed or you'd be asked to come. Okay, you must. I was just doing a national job as a member, because I used to work for the ANC Department of Economic Planning at that time. But that was long before, even before then. Yeah. Yeah, I was a member of the ANC. I was also a member of the Alliance partners, the ANC, Congress South African, trade unions, and then yeah, that's how I was just deployed to go be part of that delegation.
Okay.
Because it didn't work like that. It was not like there's a hierarchy or anything. It was okay. We need negotiators. We need people who can think. What people have certain skills on what capacities. So you deploy according to the capacities that you have and the ability for you to write and to produce and to think and to, yeah, that was it, yes.
Okay. Can you share with us some of the highlights or the top priorities in this constitution that ANC found was important to establish for the South Africans? What was some of those things that we can be knowledgeable on? That the ANC had a heart. We know it was humanity, stop the bloodshed, and one you mentioned already was that in the Constitution, no man life will ever be taken, whether it is to a crime, going to prison. You can never take a man's life. What was some other of the high priorities that were set in place in the Constitution that you all wrote that you find as the top important things in the Constitution?
Look, the Constitution is set on a number of, remember I talked to you about that ideological divide between the PAC and the ANC.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said to you, just to remind you, that the ANC established this called document, this little pamphlet called the Freedom Charter, which at its preamble says South Africa belongs to all those who live in it, black and white, right? That was Freedom Charter. That was 1956. Fast forward, 1956, negotiations, right? But also before negotiations, there are other events I have to talk to you about, but let's leave it for now, just to
Yeah.
answer your question, is that therefore then what you then have now is us won the struggle, elections are done, the ANC won, it now this majority party in government, so it has power to enforce what the Freedom Charter said. South Africa belongs to all those who live in it. So that's a preamble, basically, of our constitution. It says South Africa, we're not debating this issue anymore. South Africa belongs to all those who live in it. And therefore, then it has its legal prescripts, you know, on the human rights and all these, you know, it has all those things.
I get you.
But
So
the fundamental principle of the constitution is that this country belongs to all those who live in it, right? And then it gives all those liberties. You know, like there's no death penalties, no state must have the power. Even gay and lesbians, it's in our constitution, they are embraced in this country. They must live. Forget the perceptions of other people and so on. But the reality is that that's what we fought for. And that's what we enshrined in the constitution. Those are the values that are. So therefore, that if a gay person, or a lesbian person, or any other human being, or any person feels humiliated, violated by its rights, the Constitution safeguards their interests in whatever way. I think it's one of the best constitutions we've ever had. I mean, it protects the rights of the poor. That power, actually, it's really a constitution that has, to put it that way, you know, has been able to make sure that power, oppressive power, because power is relative. We all possess power, right? We've got agencies. But
money
oppressive power.
Money is
we
power.
all are powerful. We all possess agency. Power is relative as a concept, but oppressive power, basically, I think that constitution wanted to make it invisible. That was our job, to make any form of power that is oppressive to any other human being to be invisible. It's another thing how society evolves and changes, but there's that constitution that guarantees the rights of people to be able to live.
I'm with you on that. I'm with you on
And I
that.
said in America, they've got many states. Some states are having death penalty, others are not. I mean, it's still barbaric. It's very barbaric. They are not. They are really. I don't even want the green card of America. Barbarism. I mean, really. I mean, that country is just barbaric. They have to just think. Yeah. I mean, look at what they do to Cuba. I mean, it's just a little, tiny little country, embargo on Cuba. I mean, even our foreign policy is better than American foreign policy. It's a country that just wants to dominate.
So you rest assured that the Constitution that you partaked in and helped construct is a transparent Constitution for all people who come or live in the country, and that you believe that because of it, things have gotten better for all people.
Well, I do believe there's a lot that we have to do, no doubt about that. But I do believe that today I wouldn't be sitting with you here. We are sitting in a prime area in Rosebank with me at my house.
Yes.
This is a boy who grew up in Victoria West, right? Who hardly could go and get water, who had to go fetch water somewhere there in some river. But today I'm sitting here with you. Right. I've achieved what I have. How many books? It's part of what I fought for. Right? And there are many others. Of worked out. It's the evolution of society. It's going to take time. And I mean, we've seen it even in the Soviet Union when there was an eruption in the Eastern Europe. Societies just turn around. When new changes comes, there's pain and there's suffering, there's things that are going to happen. And we are facing that situation. I'm not saying that the current regime is doing well. No, it's absolutely not doing well at all. To my disappointment, actually, we are faced with this situation now.
What situation is that?
State capture, people wanting to enrich themselves, greed. There's something in the psyche of people, that greed, that want to have more than what you have. I'm content with my life. I want more. All I want more is how we can change society to treat the vulnerable, the poor, the dispossessed better. That's all I want. That greed of wanting to have more than what you have, all I want is to be able to think for society better, to create knowledge for society. That is my wish. That will make me happy. For my country, for us to deal with this horrible, horrible historical crime of poverty and inequality, to make sure that people live a better life. And for us not to be thinking about what car you are driving. That's my wish for my country. It's my wish that we must be a caring society, a society that seeks, we must alleviate this poverty that is facing us. I even feel guilty of myself. I do. It's not nice. And it's a time bomb. I can see Arab Spring coming into South Africa. I can see
you can see what?
The Arab Spring, the Tunisian thing. In Tunisia, you see the problem. And I've said it long time ago. Long time ago. I think I wrote a piece or I spoke to some conference about this. Is that, you see, in Tunisia, in the early 80s, 90s, and so on, you go to Tunisia, and I've been there, and I observe, it's quiet. It's kind of quiet. So state repression does not mean people are content, right? Because you're watching them with the guns. They're not content.
That's how I saw Rwanda. Yeah.
And then they revolted.
So you're saying you see
It's a
some,
time bomb.
you see a time bomb here in South Africa. The same.
If we are not careful, we are going to run into that situation.
I've said
actually not as South Africa, but the ruling party must really be careful now. The same party that I used to be in, which I'm not now, was, you know what? Okay, I have to clarify to the viewers also that the things I did, I had to do because it was necessary for us to do.
it was necessary for you to do.
Yeah.
What was that necessity?
Not because that I wanted to fight the war. Or, it was necessary to destroy apartheid. This cancer apartheid. Let's have a moment where we can negotiate. Let's have, because I'm a free man now.
Yeah.
I'm a free man now.
To a certain degree.
Yes.
To a certain degree.
Okay, there's nothing called freedom, okay. But in my country, I'm free, okay?
Yeah.
I've got a constitution that represents me. No white person can come and fuck me up. Sorry. No white person can come and tell me, fuck, it's my house.
So, let me ask you this, because you said it's a ticking time bomb, that the ruling party needs to be careful or cautious or even be aware of those things that are happening. Like what?
I said, okay, can I deal with this two ways? Because whilst I was in these debates in the party and then the constitution, right? But there was also a debate in South Africa because the African National Congress, which is Mandela's party, is a ruling party, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we had a debate, and this is very important because it's not only for South Africa, I think for Africa as well. And the argument was often choice into two it's this or that, yeah. So when the ANC was unbanned, it was a liberation movement.
Mm-hmm.
Then going to elections and so on, people were saying, and it's a very important lesson, I'm sharing this with other people, that then we had a debate, must the ANC become a liberation movement, must it become a political party? Because therefore then when you have a political party, it shows maturity, you are facing the world standards,
Mm-hmm.
blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
But political parties can also be dangerous.
Yes.
Because they stifle creativity, debate, right? You become conventional and not unconventional.
Okay.
So I think we had a very good opportunity because in our transitional process, you see, our transitional process was pregnant with new forms of thinking. You know what I'm saying? When it's a transitional process, it becomes pregnant. It's it's full of. So you must not be conventional in terms of what the norm standards of the world says to you. We have an opportunity to change things and to show the world differently, like we did with the Freedom Charter, you see. So then they were, those who were saying party, liberation movement. There were some of us, which I was part of, saying, no, the two are not in conflict with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They are connected. They are not disconnected. Right? You can be a political party and be a liberation movement at the same time. Right?
Yeah.
Because when you become a political party, you then turn to discard and you suffocate the intellectual, the artist, the writer. You see, there's no room for us to live there anymore, right? Because we have to follow a political line, which is something I would never do to myself. Never ever do it. I cannot think and follow. Like a regiment, like in the army. No. It's impossible. I don't want to. I will never become like that. I'd rather be in discourse with you like we are doing now. It's nice.
Yeah, it is nice. So, do you think subscribing to a democracy government built off of capitalism is healthy for South Africa? Because you talk about fascists like Hitler, or we can talk about socialism, we can talk about all of these different things. Do you think it's healthy? Do you see, because you said it's like a ticking time bomb, and this is how I see a democracy, democratic, if you will, or a capitalistic society, typically where it is about only those who have the power of the money who grows and become more powerful, and those with less of it become weaker. And we see and have watched this in America as how the small 1% in the world gets richer and those who don't have gets poorer, meaning that then the power will always rest in those who have the monetary wealth. This is how this system, that's why you find the Western world fighting for other countries to come in to become a democracy. But when you talk about Cuba, when you talk about North Korea, when you talk about, what's the other country that is not some Islamic states, that these different type of societies you could see a little different behavior, a little different future when it comes to the health of the country. I've told people this right here. If you want to see the future of South Africa, just look at America. Because America is the forerunner of where South Africa is trying to get. You have the Europeans who are basically have the monetary or the money power. You may have the ANC who is the predominantly Africans, but the money is the power. And when I been here to Cape Town and been here to Johannesburg and been here to Durban, you know, I'm about to go here to Lesotho and check out some other countries. But what I'm seeing is very familiar with America. Though your constitution may be written differently, I see the same type of system that you have the rich, the middle class, the poor, and everybody complaining about the corrupt government. I see the same thing. So what do you say?
Okay. There are two things. And I like your comparison with America because I think there are certain things. But you know, we're in a democratic country.
Yeah.
And therefore debate and ideas constantly evolves. At least we've got that. Yeah? Give us that I give us. But we have made some mistakes, and we've made mistakes historically. And as I was saying in that previous debate, we were losers. The ANC became a political party.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry guys. He's getting a light now. So,
Go ahead, talk.
you see, to answer this question, there has been a lot of, well, I mean, as an intellectual now I can say it, and I've always been saying it. It's not something new that I haven't said. I wrote about it. Is that there was a lot of copycatting, sometimes copying, and of concepts for democratizing society in South Africa and for changing the economic reality of South Africa, which is a highly unequal society, black versus white, very highly. And so, and the first, because I like that, what you said, you know, when you read any concept, you have to ask what are the historical and the methodological basis of the existence of a particular concept. Whether it's Michel Foucault, Jacques Derrida, deconstruct, I have to understand how does this concept come? How was it created? One of the bad things we did in South Africa, and people will nail me for it, is to adopt, and I think it's a good concept for America, bad concept for South Africa, affirmative action.
Affirmative action. Why is that?
Because in America you adopted that policy, or it was adopted in America because blacks in America are in the minority, and it's a reality, and whites are in the majority. And therefore it was used to be able to address racial inequalities of America. They must be affirmed. It's fine, maybe I even hate it for America. But now we took that policy, we say, affirmative action for South Africa. But aren't we fools? I'm black, man. And we're in the majority here. The whites are the majority. They must be affirmed, not us.
Exactly.
So can you see that stupidity?
Yeah.
I think it's ridiculous, to say the least. That you can use that as a concept now, therefore then, of course, you have to, and that's why concept matters. Concepts are important for society, because concepts are what changes society. So we adopted that affirmative action concept, and we tried to use it, we just borrowed it from America. It's stupid, it's not working for us, it's bad, I don't feel what the hell is this, right? 80%, I mean, come on. What's a minority? Why must I be affirmed? I must affirm them, motherfuckers. Don't say affirm me. No. Right? It's so stupid, but we just borrow the language and implement. Okay. Then the second one, which was created by the state, was called Black Economic Empowerment. Okay, good. Empower blacks. Okay, they must be empowered, oppressed, downtrodden. It's fine. Good. But if you really look at it, it's a Marxian concept.
It's a what concept?
It's a Marxian concept. It's a Marxist concept. Because Karl Marx, yes, said that you have to be able to reach a socialist state, you need to develop a capitalist class. Right? But what he meant basically was develop entrepreneurs. Yeah? They must grow, they must create as many as you can. Right? But the creation of that entrepreneur does not mean that you have to, he said create them, let the state enable, right, entrepreneurs to develop. You get me? But he didn't say the state must be a provider, right? So, this is a metaphor I use often. What we have now in South Africa is that concept of black economic empowerment has been abused by different, even affirmative action used by different social actors for their own personal interest.
Exactly, yes.
BEE as well. It's being used by different South Africans for their own personal interest. Now look at why I'm saying that. Now what we have is that the state actually, like as you see with the state capture thing, these guys now don't want to become entrepreneurs. In other words, to become an entrepreneur, it means go create a factory, go create a school, write your own book. Right? No, you don't do that. You're saying to the state, I need money to write my book. You don't write your book. Right? You don't say to the state, help me. Right? And by the way, if you look at the South African state economy, it hardly has money. I mean, really. So you are milking a cow without milk. That's what is happening.
You milk
and they
a cow
keep on
without
milking
milk.
a cow without milk, right? Because now I'm qualified. I must be qualified to this BE thing. BE doesn't mean that you must get money from the state. BE means that the state must enable you to be able, if you want to create a road there, or you want to create a factory there, that the state must say, okay, we'll provide you with transport to get there. Yeah? Enabler of an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Not the state to give. And that's the problem with it.
You make mention of embracing different concepts that could be harmful to a country, to a state, whatever, like the affirmative action. You know, here it is that, you know, the affirmative action of America was blacks being a minority, but yet the Europeans were the majority, into trying to affirm the black people, versus the opposite is that y'all embraced and brought over affirmative actions where the Africans are the 80% of the population, the majority, and the Europeans. So I've said this right here. When it comes to a democracy government, does it have its place in an African society when you have various tribes that may have different governmental belief systems or ways of doing business, or how do all...
What do you mean various tribes? What do you mean by that?
Huh?
What do you mean various tribes? What do you mean by various tribes?
Various tribes.
Yes, tribes or strikes? Okay, sorry. I got
Various types.
Oh, various types, okay.
Types,
sorry.
yes. That we think that even a democracy government does well, we could fit it into African countries that have people from different languages and different cultures and different backgrounds, that we think this will work. Wherein, like you'll find it in Muslim states, may have a monarchy, may have different systems in place to be able to branch out and be a voice for all. Whatever you want to call it, representatives or whatever. I think you all kind of try to do that too as well. But Does it fit well here?
No, you see, again, that's where we are unique in the world. But I don't think only South Africa is. But I mean, I live in France and I saw that, the problems that we're having with the Muslims in France and so on and so on, yeah? Which was very disgusting anyway. But I think when we wrote the constitution, we said South Africa is going to be a secular state. And we are a secular state. Now, secularism doesn't mean anti-religion.
Okay.
It means you embrace different forms of religions, different forms of faith. You recognize that all forms of religion plays an important part in society. An important part in society because there are some things that the state can do, and there are some things that the state cannot do. The state cannot be holding morals over society.
Okay.
Religious institutions, Islamic, Jewish, Christian, Catholic, whatever, can do that. They function in society. They can help society.
Or destroy societies.
No.
Control societies.
Only if you therefore then suppress them and separate them, then they will do that. But also, if you hold a monopoly of one religion, I mean, the thing, we have to say it amongst the Islamic states. I mean, really, the fact that they just want to assume that everyone must become a Muslim or Islamic, no, I don't believe in that at all. It must just be, no, come on, really, they must become secular. Can't. I don't believe in Islamic state. I believe in a state. Actually, the word Islamic state must just be completely be rubbed off. There must never be an Islamic state. There must be states. So that if I want to go to Palestine, I can live there like a South African and enjoy myself and have rights to live there. I don't have to become a Muslim. If I have to go, what is this big one?
What?
The terrible one, the oil one, the oil production, this oil production. Yeah, I want to go there. I don't know what,
Saudi Arabia?
Yes, Saudi Arabia. I mean, really, it's nice, okay. But do you think I will survive there? No. Haram. No. I can't.
Me personally, I'm gonna tell you, I prefer it that way.
What?
To have an Islamic state.
Why?
Because my thing is this right here, is that man has a tendency to go around the globe and push his own ideologies into a society and wants his rights. When it's been established that in this land where we reign, we have these fundamental belief systems. And that there's nothing wrong with if you want to come into our country to visit, be a guest, but at least respect our culture. Because come on now, brother. Hold up. You been no. Hold up. Isn't it true? Isn't it true that the West has gone around the world and colonized it and turned it into the countries or the systems that it wanted it to be like? America still does it today. The West does it today in Africa. They push their agendas in other cultures. My thing is, what I enjoy about Muslim states is that, even though I see some of the Muslim states starting to slip and slide because all for the sake of money, by people coming in with that tourist money to bring in, that they're now embracing these different ideals to relax its own stance in its religious belief system. I'm saying that we should go around the world and enjoy countries. But it does not mean that we have to go in and press and change cultures. And this is what I find that the Europeans have done. This is what I find. You cannot find China, Japan, Africa trying to go in and change a culture. They might try to do it monetarily, China, Japan, India, but I'm saying that they stay in their own respectable countries. And you, like you said earlier in this conversation, you're not going to go in there. China is not going to have a constitution for everybody. India is not going to have a constitution for everybody. America don't have it, you said. You said Western worlds don't have it. They typically are going to stand on what they want their country to be like. Africa seems to be one of the few who allow others to come in, change it, and become molded into these systems that are not even have an interest, in my opinion, of the locals. In my opinion.
Get you. Done.
That's why I like Muslim states, because I can go in there and I know that I don't have to concern myself with a lot of things that are contrary to my belief. I'm not going to walk into the Islamic state and I got to be like, okay, all right, oh, this is Gay Pride Month. They're going to be having marches all around and in the streets. And the hotel's gonna be booked, and then I go, okay, I don't want to go there during this time, whatever this might be. Or there might be these mindsets, these ideologies that really we find that today in most of these countries that are really stemming from Western worlds.
We talked about power earlier on in the South African context. Now I think we are going globally and so on. I like the theme that you're following. I'll be honest with you, I'm a very universal thinker.
Yeah.
So in addressing this question, we don't have to look at it from a macro element of power. We have to look at it from a micro element of power.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have to create these this one versus the other. We have to be actor-oriented and think specifically what are the problems. Yeah, when you address power, you have to look at it that way. Right? So the first point I will make is that I believe that no one in society must have a monopoly of ideas or morals of ethics to any other one.
I'm with you on that.
And my problem, if you are with me, therefore, then you'll understand. My problem with the Muslim countries, not the religion, Muhammad and all these things, but the fact that when I have to go there, I have to behave in a particular way according to what they insist I should. No, it's wrong. I must have the freedom to be able to live the way I want to live.
But you said,
Okay.
Go ahead.
So that analyzes the frameworks of power in society. I mean, in Saudi Arabia, I think only now that women are beginning to drive cars, it's absurd, it's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. We must say it for what it is.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's very oppressive for me. Not all the religions. No. As I said, in Tunisia, you could find different people there and so on. I mean, Saudi Arabia, these countries, they are useless. Frankly speaking, I mean, come on, how can you oppress women in that way? Gay rights, I mean, gay people are there, they exist in society. For God's sake, who are they? Who am I to judge the other? No. So any form of power, to answer your question generically, that affects another person, another human being, either in terms of thinking, right, or physically, we must make it visible. In that way, we defend society. Right? Society must be defended against states. The power of the state we must make almost invisible. The state must be an enabler. It must look after us. There's no state that looks after those people there. No. Very oppressive. This and come on. No. It's any form of power that oppresses any human being. Any form, whatever form. Even in South Africa, wherever. Even in Japan, I saw some other things. I was in Kyoto, and I studied some cultures there. I saw something. No, it's too much. power that affects and becomes oppressive to a human being, we must make invisible. That is my struggle in life. And I'll fight power wherever I found it. I don't think I'll be able to survive in Saudi Arabia. I'll be very angry.
Well,
Neither in America. I mean, sorry.
but you're sitting in a country that has been, a people came in to control it. You, from what you just said and described,
I fought it.
you fought it, but y'all submitted to it.
That I'm still fighting it.
And they still in power.
Remember, some of these struggles, gender struggles, whatever form of struggles that I refer to, are episodes with no end.
Look,
Some struggles, for example, the gender struggles, look, the domination, patriarchy, and so women, it's a struggle with no end. It's a struggle, it's an episode with no end. It will never stop. We'll have to always continuously engage with those struggles, those forms of powers that are oppressive, that are dictatorial. They are there. They will always be there. The gender struggle is one struggle that I'm convinced by now we will never be able to. I will die without that. It's an episode, but we must continue. It doesn't mean we must stop. We must continue to do it. Wherever we see it. Hence power that is oppressive, that hurts another human being. In whatever way or form. Through thinking, in ideas, or physically. No.
An agenda has power to even suppress those who may be the majority. An agenda, whether you want to talk about the LGBT.
No, I'm saying gender.
Yeah.
Gender, gender.
Oh, I know gender, yeah. I'm still talking about the same thing. Gender agenda has suppressed other people's rights of stifling what their belief system is. You said early on in this conversation that if I try to take control of your house here, you would fight me and kick me out. You said that.
Yes, of course. Because of oppressive power. You come into my space.
Yeah.
It's my space. It's declared my space. So
yes.
why do you come and take my space? Why do you come and want to take control in my space? Like you say, I can't even smoke here. I must kick you out now.
Right, yes. If I came into this house and I said, change this around, you got to stop smoking cigarettes because I don't like some cigarettes. You got to stop this. You'd be like, hold up. This is my house.
That is voluntary. The choice that I make to say, I'm not going to smoke because you're here is because I'm accommodative.
I understand.
It's my choice. But if I have the right, if it's my choice, I can also change and say, fuck you.
Right.
I'm gonna smoke.
Exactly. And I, who's the guest in this house, because we talked about, I said, well, cigarette smoke, aggravates my sinuses. So you accommodated me.
Yes.
But if you chose that you still wanted to smoke, if I try to put demands on you to stop smoking, then I take control of your house. Who am I to come into your house like an Islamist state to tell them that this land, you must submit to my ideas, you must conform to my ways because I come into your house? This is what we do. I mean, let's just take man out of the equation real quick. I like the system of nature. Nature has its way of whether it's the ant kingdom, the animal kingdom, the mammal kingdom, whatever, has a way of knowing how to function. You have the prey, you have the predator, you have those that have their kingdoms, the ant kingdom, the whale kingdom, the shark kingdom. You have all of these kingdoms that know how to operate within itself. And each will give respect to one another kingdom. But yet what man want to do is go into another kingdom and say to the ant kingdom or say to the bird kingdom or whatever kingdom, y'all hold up. The way y'all developing this right here kingdom, we want to go ahead and show you how to do it. And we want you to, because we have rights over here in the way we want it. You are overworking your workers or your males or your females, and you should operate in this fashion. To me, to me, we should have respect for each culture. The Zulu shouldn't be coming over into the Osis people telling them, well, we're Zulus and you all have to do it this way. They shouldn't come over into that kingdom.
No, I think we agree. I mean, there's no disagreement with that, but you understand now.
So Israeli state, I'm saying Muslim
I
states.
think we are saying the same thing.
But you said Muslim states you can't stand.
Sorry?
You said the Muslim states you can't stand because they are suppressive and they won't allow you to come in there to be free.
You see, there again, you see, you go. Because we are in South Africa, as I said to you, colonial special type, South Africa, unique. South Africa belongs to all those who live in it.
With an asterisk on it. There's an asterisk on that. South Africa belongs to everybody. And the reason why in the Constitution or in the ANC, what did you call it? The ANC, not the ANC, the ANC's foundation or whatever, was because they were at a losing battle. They couldn't win.
You see what we are doing?
Am I right though?
Let's not narrow this to European, to Arabic states only.
Right.
In France, when I was there living many years ago, il faut que tu parles français parce que tu habites en France. I found that so strange.
What did you just say?
It's called, you have to speak French because you're in France.
Or as the saying says, when you in Rome, do as the Romans do.
La droit. Nationalism is a very bad sickness of our societies.
It's not a perfect world.
It breeds xenophobia. And so you find that, why can these countries not accommodate others? You must be able to accommodate others.
But if the country stands on something...
No, it's one thing to be sovereign, but it's another to be able to say you open yourself to humanity. Some boundaries must be, you are working on a conventional basis of your mind, of how the world exists. That's how it is. I don't. I break boundaries.
Yeah.
You don't tell me,
the country
I told them in France, no, I'm Cashapp, by the way. Who the hell do you think you're going to Then the French actually like you, because there are also these historical baggages that we carry. The French and the English.
They say the same thing about Black Americans coming in Africa. Y'all a certain way. Y'all like rough. Y'all speak your minds. You. This is what I hear that coming here to Africa that we speak our minds.
Well, let me be honest with you. Your debate is now moving from power to what we should really look at.
Who's that?
I'm a consumer of modernity.
Modernity?
Yes. I don't believe in any form of tradition. Because I think tradition is arrested development. I don't follow any form of tradition, even my own tradition. I've long disabandoned. And that's where we need to move to in society.
So then you become?
A humanist that embraces humanity, that embraces people.
All righty.
I'm a modernist.
He's got a label for himself. You got to unravel that one too. You just be a human. Well, family, let me ask you this right here, brother. It's been awesome, you all. Being with Leslie, being with Mr. Leslie, Dikeni.
Yeah.
He has a long list of his biography, background, and titles, and all these other things. And what I love about my brother here is that he, with a conscious mindset, in his efforts to try to bring a peace in South Africa, was one of the pillars in writing the Constitution. And not only that, but he's also left some of his mindsets, his concepts in literature or books, readings that you might be interested in, that you can find. Where can they find your books and all that?
They are available on the internet at, what do you call it now? What do you call this now? I mean, can Google find them at what do you call, what is the best place to buy these things?
Just Google it,
I
huh?
don't care the damn thing, but they are all over the world. They're available.
And so I thank you for the interview with you. He met me at a restaurant and we started talking, and very interesting character, but you know, a very interesting human who we love to have the conversation of different mindsets.
And he's my neighbor now.
Temporarily. Yeah. What do you have to say to the people who are watching around the world here right now, and those who will watch in the near future? What's your heart? What's the message that you would like to leave the people?
Yeah, there are two. One, stay and think with me. See my heart for you. See my heart for humanity. Will you stay and think with me? Stay and think with me even when dark clouds gathers on me. Stay and think with me when dark clouds gathers on you too. We need a better world. I thank you.
That was one thing. You got two things. You said, what's the second thing?
We have now moved. What century are we on now? What century are we on now?
The 21st century or something? 21st?
We are there on those centuries.
Yeah, 20.
So don't look at centuries, but think hard of how we can change societies. For better. And so I say to you, for the love of ideas, let us hold the candle with wax. Sometimes when you hold this candle for the love of ideas, the pain of holding that wax, because that wax will burn your hand wherever you are in the world. If you are trying to light that candle, or if it's already there, when that wax on that candle burn your hand, don't give up. Think of me. I think of you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. That was beautiful. It was awesome. And this conversation that we've had today has been mind-blowing and eye-opener. I thank you for your efforts. And I must say to the South African, speaking with my brother here, I've gained more of understanding in what the attempt was to bring a peace in South Africa. I see your heart of why even you had a newfound understanding of why South Africa is for everybody. For two Jewish white men came to save your father when they was going to hang them, who slept in your mama's house in a dark, they call it the dark place, who left an impression upon you that not all Europeans are evil. And I have to constantly remind myself when I begin to let old pains, past pains, rise in my spirit, that I have to be reminded there have been Europeans along my life who were there, who assisted me, who may have dropped a gold nugget in my lap, who the freedom fighters in America stood along the side of the civil rights movement, who went into the South, who gave up their lives to the racist people, who lost their lives, that in the midst of bloodshed, you all had to think about the men, the women, the children in how we can get this to a place of peace. So I appreciate the efforts that you have contributed to South Africa. I appreciate the direction, hopefully, that South Africa can go and at least have a focus on people as a whole, not monetarily wise, not status wise, but humanity. So I appreciate that. I appreciate that I've learned something today in where I can at least look at the South Africans and say that your Constitution was written to include everybody. America's Constitution was not written to include everybody. So I appreciate that.
Very good. That's a good point you've made.
With that, family, this is your man, and this is your. I always leave people like, oh, what do you think? This is your man. I always leave people stumped like, what am I supposed to say? This is your. Who are you? Human. He said he's a human.
A modernist.
Go black to Africa. Thank you, brothers and sisters, for coming in and hearing out our discussion here and meeting a great guy who has contributed much to South Africa's freedom. And you all wait to my next videos that are coming out. Hopefully that I connect with other interesting South Africans who have more information to give. So with that, family, you have a blessed day, afternoon, and an evening. We are out.
Yeah, I go smoke now.